The day the sky turned black was the day Jin Su became the most important human on Earth. Jin stood on the roof of Seoul's tallest building, watching the massive ships block out the sun. At 152 centimeters tall, she barely reached the shoulders of most men around her. Her small frame, round face, and big eyes often made people think she was much younger than her 36 years. "General Jin," said a voice behind her. "The president is asking for you." Jin nodded but kept looking up. The alien ships hung in the sky like metal mountains. She counted 7 of them over Seoul alone. News reports said they appeared over every major city at the same time. "Tell him I'll be there in 5 minutes," she said. The aide left, and Jin took a deep breath. She had trained her whole life for this moment, though she never truly believed it would come. In the emergency meeting room under the Blue House, world leaders appeared on large screens. Their faces showed fear, anger, and confusion. Jin sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap, listening. "These Dracs demand our surrender," the American president said. "They want our resources and say they'll kill us all if we fight back." "Can we fight back?" asked the German chancellor. "Their technology is far beyond ours." All eyes turned to Jin. Though small in size, her reputation was enormous. The youngest general in Korean history, she had revolutionized modern warfare strategy. Now she headed Earth's secret defense program. "We need to meet them," Jin said simply. "Learn about them before we decide." 24 hours later, Jin led a small team into the largest Drac ship. The human diplomats looked tiny next to the 8-foot-tall reptilian aliens. The Dracs had scales like snakes, muscles like bears, and teeth like sharks. Their leader, Commander Throck, looked down at the humans with yellow eyes. When he saw Jin step forward, he made a rumbling sound. "This is the human leader," the translation device asked. "This small female." Jin bowed slightly. "I am General Jin Su, representing Earth's United Defense Council." Throck's mouth opened in what might have been a smile. He said something, and the translator spoke. "She is cute. Like a pet. Perhaps we will keep some as servants." The other Dracs made grinding noises that Jin understood was laughter. She kept her face calm, though her heart beat faster. This was important information. The Dracs saw humans as weak, especially those who were small. They judged by size and strength. That was their first mistake. For 3 hours, they talked. The Dracs wanted Earth's metals, water, and land. They offered to let some humans live as workers. When Jin asked why they should accept this deal, Throck showed them videos of other planets the Dracs had conquered. The destruction was complete. Billions dead. "You have 3 Earth days to surrender," Throck said, "or we begin the cleansing." As the humans prepared to leave, Jin turned back to look at Throck. "You find me cute," she said calmly. "Remember this moment. It will be important in your history." Throck laughed again, the sound like rocks in a blender. The small ones always begged the most before the end. Back on Earth, the other diplomats argued for immediate surrender or desperate attacks. Jin remained quiet until they asked for her opinion. "The Dracs have shown us exactly how to defeat them," she said. Everyone stared at her. "They believe size equals power. They think we are weak because we are small." Jin stood up, her voice strong despite her tiny frame. "They see me and think cute. This blinds them. They cannot imagine being defeated by what they see as pets." She walked to the map table and pressed a button. A hidden panel opened, revealing a complex control system that had been built years ago, waiting for this day. "Prepare Defense Plan Omega," she told her staff. "The Dracs called me cute today. Soon, they will call me Conqueror." Deep beneath the mountains outside Seoul, Jin stood in the center of Earth's most secret command center. Giant screens covered the walls, showing the positions of every Drac ship. Red dots blinked across the world map. There were hundreds of them now. "They're moving more ships into position," said Colonel Da, pointing at the display. 200 more arrived in the last 6 hours. Jin nodded. Unlike the other generals who paced nervously or shouted orders, she stood perfectly still. Her small hands were folded behind her back, her eyes never leaving the screens. "General, we have less than 40 hours before their deadline," Da reminded her. At 2 meters tall, he towered over Jin, but his voice held nothing but respect. "The world leaders are demanding to know our plan." "Let them demand," Jin said quietly. "The Dracs are watching everything we do, every message we send, every move we make." She walked to a smaller screen showing close-up images of the Drac ships. Her fingers traced the strange patterns on their hulls. "Tell me what you see, Colonel," she said. Day studied the images. Advanced technology. Weapon systems beyond our understanding. Hull material we can't penetrate with our strongest missiles. Jin smiled slightly. "Look closer. See these markings. They're organized by rank. Their fleet moves in strict patterns. Everything they do follows rules." She tapped another screen, bringing up videos of the Drax commander from their meeting. "Watch his eyes, his movements. Everything is precise, calculated." "You think that's a weakness?" Dai asked. "I know it is," Jin replied. "The Drax are powerful, but they lack imagination. They follow patterns. They cannot conceive of a strategy they wouldn't use themselves." Jin pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a small room filled with strange devices. Some looked like simple toys. Others resembled everyday objects. Phones, watches, kitchen tools. "What are these?" Dai asked, picking up what looked like a regular smartphone. "Our secret weapon," Jin said. "For 15 years, I've been preparing for this moment. Not because I knew the Drax would come, but because I knew someone would." She took the phone from him. "This looks normal, doesn't it? But inside is technology that can interface with any advanced system. It learns, adapts, and infiltrates." Day looked confused. "You think these little devices can stop the Drax ships?" Jin shook her head. "Not stop. Infect." She turned to the main control panel and pressed a series of buttons. On the screens, thousands of small blue dots appeared across Earth. "My network," she explained. "Millions of these devices already exist in every city, every town. People use them every day, not knowing what they really are." "But the Drax deadline." "Let them come," Jin interrupted. "Let them think we are surrendering." On the main screen, Jin brought up a simulation. It showed Drax ships landing, aliens spreading across Earth, setting up bases, connecting their technology to Earth's systems. "When they land, they will scan our technology to learn about us. When they do," Jin's eyes gleamed, "they will invite our virus into their systems." Day stared at her. "You've planned this all along." Jin nodded. "The world thinks I'm just a military strategist. The Drax think I'm a cute little pet." Her voice hardened. "That's exactly what I want them to think." She turned to her team of officers. "Send word to all defense forces. Operation Trojan begins now. Our orders are simple. Appear to surrender. Retreat in these specific patterns." She sent coordinates to their screens. "But make it look disorganized, frightened. The Drax must believe we are running like scared animals." "And then?" Dai asked. Jin's smile was cold as winter. "And then we show them why size has nothing to do with power." On the screens, the first Drax ships began their descent toward Earth. The Drax conquest of Earth began with terrifying speed. Their massive ships landed in major cities, crushing buildings beneath them. Giant Drax soldiers marched through streets, their scaled bodies reflecting sunlight as they rounded up humans. In New York, London, Beijing, and 100 other cities, Earth's armies fought back. They fired their most powerful weapons. Missiles exploded against Drax ships without leaving a scratch. Tanks were flipped over like toys. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky. Commander Throck watched from his command ship and laughed. "These humans are even weaker than we thought," he told his officers. "They will make good slaves." On his main screen, He watched human forces retreat in panic. Their movements were disorganized, their strategy non-existent, just as he expected from such primitive beings. "Begin setting up base camps," Throck ordered. "Connect to their power systems and communication networks. I want control of this planet in 7 days." Deep underground, Jin watched the same scenes on her monitors, but she saw something very different. "Perfect," she whispered. "They're taking the bait." Colonel Da looked at the screens showing cities in flames, Drax soldiers everywhere. "General, we're losing thousands of people. How is this perfect?" Jin pointed to a different screen showing a map with blinking dots. "The Drax are landing exactly where we predicted. They're connecting to our systems exactly as we planned." She zoomed in on one of the Drax base camps. Their soldiers had connected large cables to the city's power grid. They were setting up communication towers that linked to Earth's satellite network. "They think they're taking control," Jin explained. "But with every connection, they expose themselves to our network." She turned to a young woman sitting at a computer. "Lieutenant Mai, how many Drax systems have we infiltrated?" Mai typed quickly, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. 28% of their ground forces, General. Their security is complex, but our viruses are adapting." Jin nodded. "Send the next phase of infiltration devices. Use the children." Day looked shocked. "Children? You can't be serious." Jin's face remained calm. "Children are our best hope now. The Drax see them as harmless. They won't suspect." Across the occupied cities, a strange thing began to happen. Children approached Drax soldiers, holding small toys, little robots, stuffed animals, electronic games. They offered these gifts to the confused aliens. Some Drax soldiers took the toys as souvenirs. Others brought them back to their ships as curiosities to study. A few gave them to their scientists to analyze Earth's primitive technology. In Seoul, a small girl named Sue approached a massive Drax guard. She held up a cute robot dog that wagged its tail and barked. "For you," she said in English. "Welcome gift." The Drax soldier laughed, the sound like grinding stones. He took the toy and showed it to his fellow guards. They all laughed at the simple technology. The soldier put the dog inside his equipment bag and continued his patrol. Inside the command center, Jin watched this scene play out on her screen. She smiled as the blue dot representing the toy dog connected to her network. "Another one activated," Mai reported. "That's 512 devices now inside their security perimeter." Jin nodded. "And how are the system glitches progressing?" "Small malfunctions appearing in their communication systems," Mai said. "Nothing serious enough to raise alarms, but enough to create openings." Jin turned to the other officers. "Now we wait. Let them think they've won. Let them set up their bases. Let them connect deeper to our systems." "And then?" Dai asked. Jin's eyes were cold and determined. "And then we show them what happens when you underestimate an enemy because of their size." On her main screen, more and more Drax systems turned blue as Jin's network silently spread like a virus through their technology. 2 weeks after the invasion began, Supreme Commander Grath arrived at Earth. His ship was twice the size of any other Drax vessel. It hung above the ruins of Seoul like a metal mountain. Commander Throck stood nervously before Grath's massive throne. Grath was the largest Drax anyone had ever seen. His scales were dark red, and scars covered his face from 100 battles. "Report," Grath demanded, his voice like thunder. Throck bowed his head. "The conquest goes well, Supreme Commander. 80% of human cities are under our control. Their militaries have been crushed. We lost only 12 ships in the initial attack." Grath nodded. "And the resources?" "Mining operations have begun. Earth has more metals and minerals than our scans showed. We will meet our quotas ahead of schedule." "Good." Grath leaned forward. "And what of their leaders? Have you found the one called Jin Su?" Throck shifted uncomfortably. "Not yet, Supreme Commander. She disappeared during the initial attack." We believe she is hiding underground with the remaining human forces. Grath's yellow eyes narrowed. Find her. I want to see this tiny human who dared to challenge the Drax Empire. As they spoke, a Drax officer entered the throne room. He looked worried. Supreme Commander, we have a problem. Our systems are experiencing issues. Grath turned his massive head. What issues? Small malfunctions, communication delays, power fluctuations. Nothing serious, but there are many of them, and they're increasing. Grath looked at Throck. Is this the humans' doing? Throck shook his head. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. Our scientists believe it's this planet's unusual magnetic field interfering with our equipment. Grath wasn't convinced, but he had bigger concerns. Increase the pace of resource extraction. I want this planet stripped within 1 Earth year. Miles away, deep in her underground command center, Jin watched and listened. The Drax didn't know it, but their own communication systems now fed directly into her network. Every word they spoke was heard. 84% infiltration complete, Lieutenant Mai reported. All Drax ships and bases are now connected to our system. Jin nodded. Show me the status of their malfunctions. A new screen appeared, showing thousands of small red dots inside Drax systems. Each dot represented a tiny malfunction. A delayed message, a flickering light, a moment of static. They think it's Earth's magnetic field, Colonel Daz said with a small smile. They have no idea. Jin studied the screen. Increase the frequency of malfunctions in their weapon systems, but keep them small. We don't want them to suspect yet. Mai typed rapidly. Yes, General. Jin turned to another screen showing the location of resistance fighters around the world. Small groups of humans were hiding in mountains, forests, and underground bunkers. Each group had received special weapons and instructions from Jin's network. Begin Phase 3, Jin ordered. Tell all resistance groups to plant the pulse devices at the marked locations. Day looked concerned. But General, many of those locations are heavily guarded. We'll lose people. Jin's face showed sadness for a moment. Yes, we will. But those who fall will save millions. Across the world, brave humans snuck past Drax guards. They placed small silver devices at the base of Drax ships, near power stations, and inside ventilation systems. Many were caught and killed. But for each one who fell, 10 more succeeded. Each device connected to Jin's network, waiting for her signal. In his massive ship, Supreme Commander Grath felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. The malfunctions were increasing. His personal communicator had started showing strange symbols. Find me that human female, he ordered angrily. Find Jin Su. What he didn't know was that Jin Su had already found him. Her network was inside his ship, inside his systems, inside every piece of Drax technology on Earth. And it was growing stronger every hour. 1 month after the invasion, Jin decided it was time. Her network had reached 98% of all Drax systems. The aliens still had no idea what was happening. Begin Operation Blackout, she ordered. Lieutenant Mai nodded and typed a command into her computer. Across the world, the small devices planted by resistance fighters activated at the same time. In his command ship, Supreme Commander Grath was studying reports of Earth's mineral deposits when his screen suddenly went black. The lights flickered and died. Emergency backup systems tried to start but failed. Complete darkness fell across every Drax ship on and above Earth. What is happening? Grath roared in the darkness. His officers bumped into each other, confused and blind. After 30 seconds of chaos, a single screen lit up in front of Grath. On it was the face of a small human woman. Hello, Supreme Commander, Jin said calmly. Do you remember me? Grath leaned closer to the screen, his yellow eyes wide with shock. You, the small female. Jin nodded. The one you called cute. The one you thought might make a good pet. What have you done to my ships? Grath demanded. I shown you your first mistake, Jin replied. You judged us by our size. You thought our technology was primitive because we are small. She held up a tiny device no bigger than her thumb. This contains a quantum processor that learned how your systems work. While you were busy conquering our cities, these little devices were conquering your technology. Grath's face twisted with rage. Turn our power back on, human, or we will destroy every city on this planet. Jin's expression didn't change. With what weapons, Commander? Your ships cannot move. Your guns cannot fire. Your soldiers are trapped inside their armor, which no longer obeys their commands. Around the world, Drax soldiers suddenly found their powered armor frozen in place. Some were stuck standing. Others couldn't move their arms. The mighty Drax warriors were trapped inside their own technology. This is impossible, Graf shouted. No primitive species could do this. That was your second mistake, Jin said. Thinking we are primitive. Humans have been preparing for this day for decades. Not because we knew you would come, but because we know how the universe works. The strong always seek to conquer the weak. She leaned closer to the screen. But true strength isn't in size or weapons. It's in here. She tapped her head. Across Earth, human resistance fighters emerged from hiding. They approached the frozen Drax soldiers without fear. For the first time, humans stood tall next to the aliens who had tried to conquer them. In Seoul, a group of children led by Sue walked up to a paralyzed Drax soldier. The alien's eyes moved wildly, the only part of him that could still move. Sue held up another toy dog, just like the one she had given him weeks ago. This one is also a gift, she said, but this one won't hurt you. In the command center, Jin watched these scenes play out across the world. Colonel Dai stood beside her, amazed. What now, General? He asked. We have them trapped, but for how long? Their homeworld will send more ships. Jin nodded. Yes, they will. That's why we're not done yet. She turned to Lieutenant Mai. Activate the satellites. In space, hundreds of small satellites that had seemed dead suddenly lit up with power. They turned toward the stars, aiming at a specific point in deep space. What are those? Dai asked. Message carriers, Jin explained, powered by Drax technology that we've borrowed. They're sending a message to the Drax homeworld. What message? Jin's eyes were hard as steel. The truth about what happened here. And a warning. On her main screen, Supreme Commander Grath watched in horror as Jin's face was replaced by images of his trapped soldiers and powerless ships. This is just the beginning, Jin's voice told him. Now, we take back our world. For 3 days, the Drax remained frozen in their suits and ships. Humans around the world celebrated their victory, but Jin knew the battle wasn't over. They're finding ways to break free, Lieutenant Mai reported. Their scientists are smart. They've disconnected 10% of their ground forces from our network. Jin nodded calmly. I expected this. The Drax aren't fools, just arrogant. She turned to her team. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Blackout. On screens around the command center, everyone watched as human forces moved into position around the world. They carried new weapons designed by Jin's team. Guns that fired pulses of energy that could penetrate Drax armor at specific weak points. In New York, London, and Beijing, Drax soldiers who had broken free from the network freeze found themselves facing organized human resistance. The aliens expected easy victories like before. Instead, they met soldiers who knew exactly how to fight them. In his command ship, Supreme Commander Grath had smashed equipment and killed 3 of his own officers in rage. His best scientists had managed to get emergency systems working, giving them limited power. How did this happen? He roared. How did primitive apes defeat the mighty Drax? An older Drax scientist named Kraz stepped forward. Supreme Commander, I've analyzed their network. It's elegant. The small devices they planted in our systems work together, learning and adapting. When one is destroyed, the others become stronger. Can you stop it? Grath demanded. Kraz hesitated. Not quickly. The human called Jin designed this virus to evolve. Each time we block it, it finds new paths. He looked afraid. It's almost like it's alive. On a still working screen, they watched human forces systematically taking back their cities. The humans moved in careful patterns, targeting specific Drax weaknesses. Look at how they fight, Kraz said with reluctant admiration. This isn't random. Every move is planned. Grath smashed his fist into a control panel. Send a message to the homeworld. We need reinforcements. Communications are still down, Kraz replied. And there's something else. The humans have activated our own beacon technology. They're broadcasting to our homeworld. What are they sending? Grath asked, suddenly afraid. Everything. Our defeat, our weakness, and a warning not to return. In her command center, Jin watched the Drax attempts to regain control. She had expected this. The Drax were advanced and would eventually find ways to counter her virus. They're trying to restart their main weapons, Colonel Day reported. Jin nodded. Perfect. Tell our teams to move back from those ships. She pressed a button on her control panel. Activate the mirrors. Around the world, special devices hidden near Drax weapon systems suddenly lit up. When the Drax tried to fire their massive guns, the energy was caught by Jin's mirrors and reflected back at the ships themselves. 3 Drax vessels exploded in balls of fire as their own weapons turned against them. Supreme Commander, Jin said, opening a communication channel to Grath. Your weapons are now ours. Your technology serves us. Your strength has become your greatest weakness. Grath's face appeared on her screen, twisted with rage. This isn't over, small human. Our empire spans 50 star systems. When the homeworld learns of this, they will send 1,000 ships to burn your planet to ash. Jin's face remained calm. They already know. Your own communication technology is sending them live images of your defeat. She leaned forward. And a message from me. Any Drax ship that enters our solar system will meet the same fate. She stood up straight, her small frame somehow seeming to fill the screen. You called me cute. You saw my size and thought me weak. That was the last mistake the Drax Empire will ever make. For the first time in his long life of conquest, Supreme Commander Grath felt fear. Supreme Commander Grath had one card left to play. If he could capture or kill Jin Su, perhaps the human resistance would fall apart. Without their leader, they might lose control of the network that had trapped his forces. Find her, he ordered his best remaining soldiers. I want Jin Su brought to me alive. The Drax who had broken free from the network formed special hunting teams. They moved through the ruins of cities, searching underground bunkers and hidden bases. They used tracking technology to follow any sign of the small Korean general. Jin knew they were hunting her. She watched their movements on her screens, tracking each Drax hunting party. They're getting closer to our location, Colonel Da warned. We should move to another base. Jin shook her head. Not yet. Let them think they're finding me. She turned to Lieutenant Mai. Send false signals to the locations we prepared. Make them think I'm moving between those bunkers. Mai nodded and began typing commands. Across Korea, electronic signals appeared and disappeared, leading the Drax hunters on a wild chase. But one Drax hunter was smarter than the others. His name was Vex, and he had been studying humans since the invasion began. He noticed a pattern in Jin's movements that others missed. The human general never goes far from this mountain range, he told his team. And look at these power readings. Something is using a lot of energy deep underground. Vex led his soldiers to a hidden entrance in the mountains. They moved silently, avoiding the traps and sensors Jin had placed. Using special tools, they cut through locked doors and descended deep into the earth. In her command center, Jin was directing an attack on a Drax base when alarms suddenly blared. Intruder alert, Mei shouted. Drax soldiers have breached the outer defenses. They'll reach us in 5 minutes. Jin remained calm. Activate emergency protocols. Lieutenant Meh, take the backup drives and use Escape Tunnel 3. She looked at her officers. The rest of you, go with her. Continue the operation from Base 7. Colonel Dai stepped forward. What about you, General? Jin smiled slightly. I'll hold them off. Someone needs to erase the main computers. I'll stay with you, Dai insisted. Jin shook her head. That's an order, Colonel. Humanity needs you to continue if I fall. Reluctantly, Dai led the others out through a hidden exit. Jin turned back to the main computer and began typing rapidly, erasing critical files and setting traps in the system. 3 minutes later, the main door to the command center exploded inward. Drax hunters rushed in, weapons ready. Vex stepped through the smoke and saw Jin standing calmly at her control panel. General Jin Su, he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic. You've caused us much trouble. Jin turned to face him. Even next to the smallest Drax hunter, she looked tiny. Hello, Vex, she said. I've been watching you. You're smarter than the others. Vex seemed surprised that she knew his name. Supreme Commander Graf wants you alive. Jin nodded. I know. He thinks capturing me will end this war. She pressed a final button on her control panel. He's wrong. The lights in the command center suddenly went out. When emergency lights came on seconds later, Jin was gone. Vex roared in frustration. Find her. She must be in the tunnels. But Jin had vanished. As the Drax hunters searched frantically, Vex noticed something on the main screen. It showed hundreds of Drax systems turning red, then black as they shut down completely. Jin's voice came through the speakers. You found my old command center, Vex. Thank you for triggering Phase 3. Across the planet, all remaining Drax technology suddenly went dead. Their ships fell from the sky. Their weapons turned to useless metal. Their life support systems failed. The hunt for Jin had become a trap for the hunters. 7 days after Jin disappeared from her command center, Supreme Commander Graf received a strange message. It came directly to his personal communicator, one of the few Drax devices still working. I will meet with you, the message said. Just you and me. To end this war. It was signed simply, Jin Su. The message included coordinates for a meeting place, the top floor of a half-destroyed skyscraper in Seoul. Graf's advisors warned him it was a trap. But the Supreme Commander had no choice. His forces were dying. Their life support systems had failed. Their ships couldn't fly. Their weapons were useless metal. Without help from their home world, which hadn't responded to any messages, the Drax on Earth would not survive another month. I will meet this human, Graf decided, and I will crush her with my bare hands. At sunset, Graf arrived at the broken building. He had removed his powered armor, which no longer worked anyway. Even without it, he stood nearly 3 times Jin's height. His massive scaled body moved slowly up the stairs since the elevators no longer worked. When he reached the top floor, he found Jin standing alone by the broken windows. The setting sun painted the ruined city gold and red. Jin wore a simple black uniform with no weapons. Supreme Commander, she said, turning to face him. Thank you for coming. Graf moved closer, his steps shaking the floor. You have courage, small human. Meeting me alone. I could kill you with one hand. Jin nodded. You could try, but it wouldn't save your people. She gestured toward the window. Below, they could see hundreds of Drax soldiers lying in the streets. Without their life support systems, they were slowly dying in Earth's atmosphere, which was slightly toxic to their lungs. Why did you call me here? Graf asked. To gloat? To offer you a choice, Jin replied. And to explain why you lost this war before it even began. She walked to a table where a small device sat. When she touched it, a hologram appeared showing the solar system. 5 years ago, our deep space telescopes detected your fleet, she explained. We knew you were coming long before you arrived. Graf's yellow eyes widened. Impossible. We were in stealth mode. Jin smiled slightly. Your stealth technology is good, but not perfect. We had time to prepare, to study your signals, to create a virus that would infect your systems from the moment you scanned Earth. So this was all planned? Graf asked, his voice low and dangerous. Yes, Jin said simply. Every retreat, every surrender, every child with a toy, every power station you connected to. We led you exactly where we wanted you to go. She touched the device again. The hologram changed to show Drax ships being built in Earth orbit. What is this? Graf demanded. Your ships, Jin said. Or rather, what's left of them. We've been taking them apart and learning how they work, building our own versions. Graf stared in shock. You stole our technology. We improved it, Jin corrected. Your ships were powerful but inefficient. We've made them better. She looked up at the massive alien. Now for my offer. We will save your soldiers, give them medicine for the atmosphere poisoning, help you repair one ship to return home. In exchange for what? Graf asked suspiciously. A message, Jin said. You will tell your empire that Earth is not to be touched, that humans are not prey or slaves, that we defeated the mighty Drax, not with size or strength, but with intelligence. She stepped closer to him, fearless despite his massive size. And you will tell them what happens when someone underestimates humanity because we look small or cute. Graf looked down at the tiny human who had brought his mighty force to its knees. You knew, he said slowly. From the moment I called you cute, you knew you would win. Jin's smile was cold. That was the moment I knew exactly how to defeat you. 3 months after the meeting with Graf, Jin stood on a high platform at what remained of the United Nations building in New York. Leaders from around the world gathered to watch as the last Drax ship prepared to leave Earth. The massive ship had been repaired just enough for the journey home. Its weapons had been removed. Its communication systems were controlled by Jin's network. Nearly 5,000 Drax survivors crowded inside, cured of the atmosphere poisoning by human medicines. Colonel Dai stood beside Jin on the platform. Do you think they'll keep their word? He asked quietly. Jin watched as Supreme Commander Graf walked up the ramp into his ship. The once proud alien leader moved slowly, his massive shoulders bent. Before entering, he turned and looked directly at Jin, giving her a slight nod. He will, Jin said confidently. Graf understands honor in his way, and he knows what will happen if they return. The ship's engines glowed blue as they powered up. The crowd of humans stepped back as wind whipped around the launch area. People of Earth, Jin said into a microphone, her voice carried to billions watching around the world. Today marks a new chapter in human history. We faced the greatest threat our species has ever known, and we survived. Not because we were stronger or bigger, but because we were smarter. The Drax ship rose slowly into the air, hovering for a moment before shooting upward toward space. Jin continued. The Drax came here believing size determined power. They looked at us, especially at women and children, and saw only weakness. That blindness was their downfall. On screens around the world, people watched the ship grow smaller in the sky until it disappeared. We have kept some of their technology, Jin explained. Not their weapons, but their engines, their medical advances, things that will help us grow as a species. She held up a small device in her hand. And we've kept this, a direct link to the Drax home world. If they ever consider returning, they will hear my voice reminding them of what happened here. The crowd cheered. People hugged each other, some crying with relief and joy. Earth had won against impossible odds. Later that day, Jin returned to Korea. She walked alone through the streets of Seoul, now being rebuilt after the invasion. People stopped to bow or thank her as she passed. Some wanted to touch her hand or take pictures with her. Jin smiled politely but kept walking. She came to a small park where children played. Among them was Sue, the girl who had given the toy dog to the Drax soldier. Jin sat beside her on a bench. Hello, General, Sue said with a bright smile. Did the aliens go home? Jin nodded. They did, and they won't come back. Good, Sue said. They weren't very nice. No, they weren't, Jin agreed. But they taught us something important. What's that? The girl asked. That we should never judge others by how they look, Jin explained. The Dracs thought humans were weak because we're small. They thought you were just a little girl with a toy. Sue grinned. But I helped save Earth. Yes, you did, Jin said, smiling back. In space, the Dracs ship passed Mars and headed toward deep space. Inside, Supreme Commander Graf watched Earth disappear behind them. A younger officer approached him nervously. Supreme Commander, what will you tell the High Council? He asked. About our defeat. Graf's eyes were distant. The truth. That we were conquered by a species far more dangerous than we understood. That their size hid their true strength. He turned to face the officer. And that a small female named Jin Su taught the mighty Drax Empire its greatest lesson. On a screen nearby, Jin's final message played on loop. It would be shown throughout the Drax Empire as a warning. They called her cute. She called them conquered.